Hey. Welcome to Elle Loves 3 Book Reviews, Part 1, Episode 1. Today, Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. Sorry if I butchered her name. Shadow and Bone. Let's talk about it. Shadow and Bone is a trilogy, but in this video, I'm only going to be talking about the first book, which is Shadow and Bone. At this point in time, I've only read the first book. That is going to change. I do plan on reading the other two, Siege and Storm, and I think it's called Ruin and Rising, or Ruin and Rising? Rise and Ruin, something like that. My opinions and my review might develop further in the future, might change a little bit based on when I read the other two books, but as of right now, we're only talking about the first one. So, I picked up Shadow and Bone because I originally intended to read Six of Crows, which is also by Leigh Bardugo. I probably should have looked up how to pronounce her name. That might not be right. So sorry. I'm not gonna look it up. I originally wanted to read Six of Crows, which I didn't even know when I was wanting to read it, but that's actually a duology, meaning there's two books as opposed to trilogy being, dual. Anyways. But as I was doing some research, aka looking at Goodreads reviews, so I found out that it takes place in the same universe as Shadow and Bone, or the Grishaverse as it's called. So it takes place in the same universe. It's not the same characters, and it's not like the same plot. I don't even know if it's like the same country that it takes place in, but it's the same universe. And so you don't technically have to read Shadow and Bone before you read Six of Crows, but people online said that it's probably like recommended to read Shadow and Bone first, because that's what does the majority of the world building and how you find out like how the world works, the political stuff, the magic stuff, all the stuff about Grishas and whatnot. So, speaking of Grishas, so I wanted to read Six Crows, but I found out that, and I was like, okay, why don't I just read Shadow and Bone? Because Shadow and Bone, I kind of wanted to read it, but I did want to read Six of Crows more. But I figured that if I read Six of Crows and it referenced Shadow and Bone, then I'd probably want to go read Shadow and Bone. So I was like, okay, I'll just go read it first. And I liked it. Oops, spoiler, just spoiled the whole review. I liked the book. So getting into it, this review is probably going to contain spoilers. Here's your warning. Spoiler. Maybe, probably not. Maybe, yeah. Shadow and Bone takes place in what is called the Grishaverse. Okay, I think, the Grishaverse is like the Marvel universe, like how all the Marvel movies are interconnected because they all take place in the same universe, so everything kind of, so it's not called the Grishaverse within the books, but it's you know what I mean? Basically, there's the normal people, regular, plain old, boring, just people, and then there's the Grishas. So Grishas are basically just humans, but with abilities. It's not exactly magic. They kind of they try to it's like kind of explained in the book. It's not technically magic. It's, let me actually pull up. So in the book, it's described more as like someone's true nature. So like when the main character Alina she lived her whole life not knowing that she was Grisha, because it's a power that you have, but it's a part of you. So Grisha study the small science, which the small science itself isn't talked about a whole lot within the book. So in the book, it's explained everything in the world could be broken down into the same small parts. What looked like magic was really the Grisha manipulating matter at its most fundamental levels. So Grishas that make fire. Marie didn't make fire. She summoned combustible elements in the air around us, and she still needed a flint to make the spark that would burn that fuel. So the principles of the small science is like calls to like. So this is exactly from the book. This is the thisness of a thing that made it the same of everything else, and then the thatness of a thing made it different from everything else. So the thisness connected Grisha to the world, but it was the thatness that gave them an affinity for something, like air or blood, or in my case, light. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but that's how they explain it. So that's what a Grisha is. But then there's like different kinds of Grisha. So like it said in a quote, like an affinity for something like air or blood or light. So there's like three groups. There's, I might be saying this wrong, the Corpulci, which is the order of the living and dead. So that has heartrenders and healers. Healers are healers. Heartrenders are like warriors? I don't know. Then there's the Etherealci, which is the order of summoners. So there's squallers, it's like the air. Inferni is fire, and then Tide Makers is like water. Then there's the Materialci, the order of fabricators. There's the Duras and the Alchemy. Neither of those are really talked about. There's only one fabricator that shows up in the book, and he like welds, I don't know. So now that we understand what a Grisha is, the premise of the book is, so the main character is Alina Starkov, an orphan, like always in young adult dystopian books. Why are they all orphans? I don't know. She's got her bestie Mal. She's in love with him. She thinks she's too plain for him to notice, you know, the huge. It takes place in a country called Ravka that is currently like ravaged by war. I think they're at war with the bordering country, which is Fierda? I think that's how that's pronounced. I don't know. I think that's who they're at war with. I don't really know. Probably because they like get attacked by like the Fierdans at some point, and then like can't cross the, yeah, I'm pretty sure. Anyways, so the country's at war. So then there's the first army and then the second army. The first army is like the regular people, just normal soldiers. And then the second army is the Grisha, and they're led by this guy called the Darkling. So Alina is a member of the first army, so is Mal. Mal, her best friend, he's a tracker, and then Alina is a cartographer or map maker. Iconic line from Alina when her power first comes about. She's like in court, and they're like, what are you? And she's like, I'm a map maker, sir. She slayed. Anyways, she's a map maker. Nothing really crazy is going on. Then they need to go on a mission across what is called the Shadowfold, or the Unsea. So this is basically, it's like just a big, like, it's like straight up darkness. Like, it's like darkness as a tangible thing, kind of, that's separating Ravka from, like, it like splits the country in half. So I don't know if the army also has to do with that. Like, I don't know if they're like at war with, I don't know. Anyways, so it's like just complete darkness, and then there's like monsters in it. So their goal is to like cross the fold to get to West Ravka, and then, I don't know, bring the country back together. So Alina and then a bunch of other people from the first army go on like this boat, or a skiff, which I'm pretty sure is a boat, and they try to cross the Unsea, but there's monsters in there, obviously. So these like monsters called the Volcra, which are like pterodactyl type things, they like come down and they attack the boat. People die, yada yada yada. Alina gets attacked. One of her friends gets literally picked up and woo. And then Mal, Alina's the love of her life, he gets attacked. Actually, I think Alina was going to get attacked, and then Mal tried to save her, but then she tried to save him, and then she ended up, so she was trying to protect him, and then like this is when her power comes out. I mean, this is when her power comes out. So it's like this big like blast of like light basically just kind of comes out of her, and the Volcra, being monsters of the darkness, they like can't be in the light, so they go away. She saves everyone, yay. Then she wakes up and they freaking seize her, and then they take her to court after she just saved everybody's lives. And they're like, what the hell is that, girl? You're a Grisha? Like, you have powers? Like, what are you talking about? How have you been hiding this? How did like the Darkling, the guy that's in control of the Grishas, like, how did nobody know about this? What's going on? Like, what, they're like mad at her. Anyways, but she has no idea what the hell is happening. She's like, you got it all wrong. Like, I don't know like, I don't know what happened, but it wasn't me. I didn't do that. Like, I'm not a Grisha. I'm just a map maker, sir. So yeah, but she's like, I don't freaking know, you got the wrong girl. And then they like capture her, and then they take her to Alta, which is like the kingdom. So that's where like all the Grisha are, and the king and the Darkling and all that. So she's taken to the little palace, which is like all the Grisha, where all the Grisha live. And then there's the grand palace, which is like where the king and yada yada. So she's taken to the little palace. Nobody knows what's going on. And basically the Darkling, you know, proves to her that she has this power. He's something called an amplifier, meaning he can like touch someone and it'll make their power like stronger. And then there's like physical amplifiers too, but you have to like earn them. So it's like you kill a shark and then its teeth is like an amplifier. I don't know. So then she's thrust into all this training and all that stuff. She has to learn all the like the Grisha theory, and so she basically has to figure out what a Grisha is, because she doesn't really know exactly what they do. She just knows they're better than her. So yeah, she has to go through all that. She makes a friend called Genya. She's like a servant girl, but she slays. She's so cool. She's so cute. Her ability is like, she can like change people's like looks, kind of, not like entirely, but she can like get rid of your dark circles and like give you like flushed cheeks and shiny hair, and she's just so cool. Yeah. And then Alina and the Darkling start getting a little close, and Genya's like, girl, be careful, I don't trust him. He's like the leader, but like nobody trusts him, so I don't really know how that works. Also, he's like, I don't know, I'm getting into too much detail. It doesn't matter, read the book yourself. But yeah, then blah blah blah. So the Darkling, anyways, so because Alina was, her power is like the light, she is a sun summoner, which is like, there's no other sun summoner in the world. So she's like famous now, chosen one, you know, that type of stuff. And so then the Darkling is like, you're the only thing that can stop the Shadowfold, stop the darkness, and like bring our country back together. So then she's being trained, but she doesn't know what the hell she's doing. So everybody's like, girl, you suck, like you can't even call on your own power by yourself. So then the Darkling wants to get her own amplifier from Morzova's stag, which is like, I don't know, some magical deer thing from like the antlers. So like you like kill the animal and you get power over its life and it gives you power. Anyways, but Morzova's herd isn't like, it's like a myth. Like nobody knows if it's like actually real. And so Baghra, the woman who is like, she's like this mean old woman who's been training Alina. She doesn't believe in it, so she's like calling the Darkling stupid and everything. But then the Darkling, well, not the Darkling, the soldiers find the herd, the stag, and then Baghra's like, uh-oh, and she finds Alina and she's like, girl, you gotta go, get the freak out while you can, don't trust the Darkling. He told you that the Darkling that made the Shadowfold, like whatever, how many years ago, wasn't him. He said it was like his great-great-grandfather. It was him. It was the Darkling himself. And then Alina's like, that's impossible, whatever. Turns out Baghra's his mother. And she's like, girl, I know what I'm talking about. He's like not the guy he says he is. He sucks. So it turns out he was the bad guy all along. And instead of using Alina to close the fold, he wants to expand it. But he couldn't do it before because of the Volcra, because they'd like die. So he needs Alina to control the Volcra with her light so he can expand the thing and then gain more power over the country and everything. So then Alina flees and she's on the run for a while until Mal finds her. So he was one of the soldiers that were searching for the herd, and because he's such a good tracker, he's the reason that they found it. And so then he helps Alina, you know, get away and everything like that. And then they're like, let's go find the herd ourselves. Alina still like needs an amplifier because she's still not that great at her power yet. But in order to like defeat the Darkling, she needs like, I don't know. So they're looking for the herd while also running from the Darkling. Then they find the stag, and Mal's like, okay, Alina, kill it, and she says, I won't do it. She refuses to kill the stag. And then Darkling shows up, he kills the stag, captures Alina, puts the collar of the antlers around her neck, and then she's under his control. Because the power of the, so it's like the power of the life comes from who like kills it. So if she had killed the stag, she would have gotten the power, but because the Darkling killed the stag, he got the power. Even though she's the one wearing the amplifier, he's the one in control. So then they go back, and then there's like this whole display in front of the whole like palace and everything, where Alina like makes a path through the fold so that they can see the other side of Ravka and the real ocean beyond it, and they're like, oh my god, yay! And then the Darkling like expands it, and then basically he's like threatening everybody. He's like, this is what I can do if you don't like listen to me, I don't know, die. The Darkling was gonna kill Mal because, I don't know, don't need him. And also he sucks. So he like throws Mal into the darkness. Alina's trying to run and get him, like using her light to protect. But she can't because she's not the one in control until she has a realization. So ever since the death of the stag, she had been having nightmares about it, about the death of the stag, and she thought it was just haunting her and like mocking her mercy for, you know, not killing the stag, because that's why this whole mess happened, because she hadn't been able to kill the stag. But she realizes that basically the whole thing is her mercy is the power. There's like the power of mercy or whatever. Because she spared the life is hers too, you know? So basically, this is a quote. The stag had been showing me my strength, not just the price of mercy, but the power it bestowed, and mercy was something the Darkling would never understand. I had spared the stag's life. The power of that life belonged to me as surely as it belonged to the man who had taken it. So then she gets her power back, she saves Mal, they run. They make it across the fold to West Ravka, they get on a boat, now they're in the true sea. Book ends. So that's basically the whole first book of the Shadow and Bone trilogy. Now let's talk about my thoughts. I actually really liked this book. As much as I was talking about like how it didn't make sense and whatever, I did actually really enjoy it. I do think it was kind of confusing. In the first like half or so of the book was honestly pretty boring. Because probably about, there's like 22 chapters plus like a very short epilogue, very short like prologue thing. Probably until about like chapter 13 or 14, I was pretty bored. Cause it's the first book of this universe, like, so all the world building is happening. And it's just a lot. And you're trying to understand, this always happens with fantasy novels, where you're like trying to understand, there's like all these words that you're like, what the hell is that? And then all the characters, and then like the whatever magic and politics and all that stuff. And I'm a girl who really only cares about the romance in a book. Oh, by the way, her and Mal get together, obviously. Okay, where they finally get together though kind of slays. It's so sweet. He like, Mal says this whole like thing. He's like, I walked half the length of Ravka for you. I've risked my life for you. I've done everything for you just to starve with you and freeze you. I'd like do it all over again just to, you know, lay in the cold and freeze with you on the run over and over and over again. I'm sorry it took me so long to see you, Alina, but I see you now. I was like, oh, slayed. But the book, yeah, so the book really picked up for me, I'd say around chapter 13, which funnily enough, is when the romance picks up, because that's when the Darkling and Alina kiss. So from then on, I was like, I was in it. I was interested. But overall, as kind of confusing as it is, and how much, I feel like it definitely could have been explained more exactly what the Grisha are and what they do. I don't really get the whole small science thing or what that is supposed to be. That's likely gone more into the depth in the other books, which I haven't read yet, so that's, you know, completely, you know, my whatever. It also is extremely cliche, and I love it. You know, some people might see that as a fault. You know, orphan girl becomes chosen one, love triangle between dark, scary guy and then childhood best friend. Then, you know, whatever, like, it is very cliche, but honestly, I kind of loved it. I kind of like cliche, like, you know, it's a cliche for a reason. If it works, it works. It's always enjoyable, you know what I mean? I feel like this is a young adult book, so it is, in my opinion, maybe just like a little bit juvenile. I feel like this is something I would have really enjoyed, like, when I was maybe just like a little bit younger, maybe like end of middle school, early high school, something like that. I feel like I would have really enjoyed it. I did really enjoy it anyway, now that I'm, you know, even in college and all that. But I do think it's worth the read. You might have to suffer through like the first 50% of the book, but in my personal opinion, it was really enjoyable towards the end. I like the characters. I do really like Alina. I think she's really fun. She slays, girl boss, you know, all that. And she's so real. Because, of course, she fell in love with the Darkling. Like, you know? And then, like, even, like, towards the end, when she, like, knows he's the bad guy, she's like, damn. Maybe I just wanted that he wanted me, and maybe I still do. Is that such a bad shit? It's like, you're so real for that, girl. She's so real for that. Anyways, so I rated this book 4 stars on my Goodreads. 4 stars because Alina slayed. 4 stars. I did kind of battle with myself between maybe 3 or 4. In the middle, like, while I was actively reading, like, the last couple chapters of the book, I was like, hee, like, 5 stars, love it, love it, love it. But then afterwards, when I kind of, like, thought about it more, I was like, okay, the first half of the book, boring as hell. I didn't really give a fuck. But the second half of the book is really good. So I will say it does take a little bit to pick up, but that is, granted, that is just because she has to take the time to explain the whole universe, you know, and, you know, how it works, and literally even what these, like, the Grisha are, otherwise you would be so confused. But I totally get just wanting to, like, get into the action. I mean the battle, gosh. Get your mind out of the gutter. There's no action in this book. Nothing. It's young adult, gosh. Yeah, but once you're, like, in the bit where things start to pick up, where, you know, they know who the bad guys are, and that's when it's like they're on the run and all that stuff. That part's really good. I love all the scenes between Alina and Mal. It's very sweet. I like that there is a good balance between, like, we're on the run, we're scared for our lives, but we're also reconnecting after not having seen each other for a while. We're childhood best friends. We're, like, falling in love, and it's like, I love it. So overall, I would say it was worth it to me, and I definitely am going to read, it's Ruin and Rising, by the way, is the third one. Siege and Storm, and then Ruin and Rising. I've yet to find them anywhere, other than online, but I'm looking for it, and I will be reading that. I do still want to read Six of Crows. So I think that is also why I am going to read the other ones, because Six of Crows is supposed to be so good. I mean, I hope so. That is what I've read, like from reviews and stuff. I haven't read it yet, but I've heard that it's really, really good, so I really do want to read it. There is also a show on Netflix of Shadow and Bone. It was canceled after, I think, the second season. I haven't watched it. I'm not sure if it's just based on the first book or if it's based on the whole trilogy. So that's something I'm going to look into after I finish the other books. But keep that in mind, that there is a show, but it was canceled. I'll probably be doing more book reviews in the future. I promise next time that I will be at least a little bit prepared. Maybe pull out some of my favorite quotes. Oh, you know what? Why don't I do that right now? To close this off, I'm just gonna include a few of my favorite quotes from the book. Minimal context, just okay. So some of my favorite quotes from the book. This first one, the scene where Mal basically confesses his love to Alina. I missed you every hour, and you know what the worst part was? It caught me completely by surprise. I catch myself just walking around to find you, not for any reason, just out of habit, because I'd seen something that I wanted to tell you about, or because I wanted to hear your voice. And then I'd realize that you weren't there anymore, and every single time, it was like having the wind knocked out of me. I've risked my life for you. I walked half the length of Ravka for you, and I do it again and again and again, just to be with you, just to starve with you, and freeze with you, and hear you complain about hard cheese every day, so don't tell me why we don't belong together. So good. If anyone ever said that to me, goodness gracious. Another really good quote that I love. This is a quote from the Darkling to Alina. The problem with wanting is that it makes us weak. And this is such an incredible line, because in the scene that the Darkling says this to Alina, he's saying this as if from his own point of view. He's saying that he's, weak because instead of, ruling his country here, he's here with Alina because he wants her, so it's making him weak. But in actuality, what he's talking about is that Alina wanting him was making her weak, because she wasn't realizing what was really going on, which is great parallel. Love that. Another really great moment between Alina and Mal. I love this one. Mal, I whispered into the night. What? Thanks for finding me. I wasn't sure if I was dreaming, but somewhere in the dark, I thought I heard him whisper, always. The moment our lips met, I knew with pure and piercing certainty that I would have waited for him forever. So there's so good. And the last quote that I'm gonna include for this is from Bagra to Alina. And there's nothing wrong with being a lizard either, unless you were born to be a hawk. Unlock your true potential. And on that note, I'm gonna close out this review. Go check out Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. I got my copy at Target. You could probably find it anywhere. It's a pretty popular book. So, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Comment down below your Goodreads account if you have one, and I'll check it out. And I'll link mine in the description in case you want to check that out. I actually don't really leave reviews though. I will rate the books, but I'm not gonna type all that out. Thanks for watching. Bye!